Hello cave dwellers and welcome to the magical island of Stunt. It's Stunt Island from 1993, a game which I enjoyed upon its original release and decided to revisit as part of my New Year's resolution to actually play more games on the systems I refurbish. Released by Infogrames before the Sound Blaster had tightened its grip as the audio standard, the box boasts that it supports Disney's Sound Source, a Covox speech thing-like audio device and quite the collectible these days. Make no mistake though, this box promises action and the stunt flying and filming simulation, and they spared no expense in hiring Michael Jackson himself to do the camera work. Flying, filming and editing are all promised. Do the things you've never done before with a flight simulator. Land on moving trains, play chicken with a truck on a crowded street, or pluck an escaping convict off of the tower on Alcatraz Island. And if that doesn't have your attention, well, here's a picture of a plane about to crash into a police car. The assembly line were the developers behind this, a British company also responsible for Xenon 2, Interphase and Pipe Mania, other great but definitely less ambitious games than this. And this chart promises both hours of play and interest, but with no axis for enjoyment, we're going to have to just open it up and find out for ourselves if it still holds up today. My memories of it certainly are good, but as with every retro game you haven't touched for a while, you're never quite sure how rose-tinted those glasses are. The box then contains everything you could want from a big box PC game, save for perhaps some trinkets. Software catalogues for Disney and Infogrames with their 1993 collection, and a reassuring number of discs, but not so many that you'll wear your drive or your patience out by installing it. There's also a glossy and entertaining manual, which doubles as a copy protection system when the game prompts you for information such as, what is the takeoff speed of a duck? It's a typical manual of these 90s big box games, and no doubt you, like me, read them cover to cover, extending the gaming experience well beyond the screen itself. So what then were we playing from Infogrames in 1993? Well, how about Alone in the Dark, the inspiration behind the Resident Evil series? Or Shadow of the Comet, which I have to admit I didn't play? Or this one, Eternum, which says, how far would you go for the lovely Tracy? And can you reverse the Machiavellian plot threatening her archipelago? We may never find out, or perhaps you've played it and you know the outcome of that story. Or how about this for your shelf, SimCity Deluxe? Look at that beautiful box of simulated gaming joy. The required specs are listed for the games, and this being 1993, the Amiga and Macintosh computers are listed for some titles. Stunt Island, however, needed the grunt of a 386 with 16 MHz or greater to run, and so it appeared only on the PC, although a maths coprocessor was not required. A large map of the island with points of interest complete the contents of an immensely satisfying big box of treasures. So that's what's in the box, and I think I'm about ready to play Stunt Island for the first time in 25 years. But to make sure I get the best experience out of it and full control of my plane, or indeed duck, we'll play it with the F22 Pro. Now that was a ducking good joystick. Oh dear. Stunt Island then, a game of 3 parts, as the box explains, starting with the flight simulator, which we'll jump into now. It's far from complex as a flight simulator, offering no more than speed, brakes, flaps and gears, as well as a gun, missile or bomb weapon depending on what you're flying. And while the resolution is of the era, the lack of textures and use of shading doesn't make it unpleasant to look at in the modern day. In 1993, any kind of landscape in a flight sim that wasn't flat and barren was enough to put a grin on even the most hardened gamer's face. Not only did we get hills and mountains in this, but cities and landmarks, like the Golden Gate Bridge here, which was clearly deconstructed, moved from San Francisco and rebuilt right here on Stunt Island, obviously. Stunts of course require props and sets, and that's where ground detail really becomes important if you want your movie to stand out. And the points of interest around the island are nicely varied, from dams and viaducts to statues and castles. Let's take our duck out for a fly then, and as we learned in the manual, it has a retractable landing gear. Majestic. The The duck is a dastardly mallard though. With a quick press of the W to select your weapon, it bombs away with a dirty dozen eggs which impact with a comedy-sized splat, complete with yolk. And the temptation was too much not to fly to Alcatraz and show them who the real Birdman was. So that's the engine behind the game, and there's plenty of fun to be had soaring around the island, but there's a lot more to be had by trying to become Stunt Pilot of the Year. Completing 26 out of 32 available pre-configured stunts will earn you that title, and they're pretty varied, ranging from landing on bridges to picking up prisoners, blasting jeeps, crashing through billboards, and the classic, flying a triplane through a barn.
Quiet on the set, speed, and action!
Which I'll attempt here. This is one of the easier stunts, as is evident by pretty much flying in a straight line, but it still gets the old heart going as you skim past a combine harvester. If you're successful, then you're treated to the film of your work, which you can edit manually or view the automatically edited footage, and the cinema goers here quite rightly love our work. And if you don't do so well, you'll get familiar with this guy pretty quickly.
You have a broken leg, an ankle bone spur, 8 broken ribs, and a runny nose. We'll have you patched up and flying again tomorrow.
Honestly, performing the stunts combined with a bit of free flight around the island makes this a great game, and those stunts quickly become very, very challenging. Pilot Wings on the Super Nintendo, this is not. But the game doesn't stop there, it has a whole lot more to offer, throwing the sandbox at you with the ability to create your own sets and stunts, perform and then edit them into your own feature films. The editor gives you access to the entire island as well as all the props. So here I am setting up the prop named Badman on a bridge and putting a boombox on his shoulder. It's not a quick process, especially if you're a perfectionist and you don't want legs through the floor or props facing the wrong way. With your props set up, you could then set up basic if-then actions. For example, if the plane, that's me, collides with the bad man, then blow up his boombox. And that's just skimming the surface. A large chapter is dedicated in the guide to programming events which play sound effects, trigger explosions and animate characters. A lot of time can be lost on this, but a little patience is needed to get the hang of it. So with the scene set up and the stunt performed, you then go into the editing suite to create your masterpiece, which again demands a chapter in the manual to get to grips with if you want to achieve the best results. Results like this film which comes with the game, it's our duck again, and he's not happy. "1993 may have been very early days for the World Wide Web, but the game stuck around for many years with a dedicated fan base, no more so than the Stunt Island Filmmakers Association, or SIFA, and their gloriously 90s website which is still online today, and I hope they don't change a thing about it. Look at that glorious background. Members would submit their latest creations and review each other's movies. This was made all the easier by Stunt Island's ability to distribute movies standalone without your friends needing to purchase the game to view them. And boy did these guys get creative. In this example, Truck Wars 2, the island is nowhere to be seen, with an entire catalogue of new props, spaceships and landscapes created and expertly manipulated to create something I don't think the Creative Assembly ever envisioned when they created the game. Meanwhile, back on Stunt Island, I've been having a lot of fun working through the stunt assignments, which are a source of frustration and eventually accomplishment, still with great replay value. Returning to a holiday destination you enjoyed is always a risky business. There's the risk you might tarnish great memories from your previous visit with a bad experience, or that it doesn't live up to your memories and carefully curated photo album. But this return trip has been a positive one for me. The island is exactly how I remembered it, the gameplay is just as fun, and the results just as impressive and sometimes hilarious. While Stunt Island wasn't groundbreaking, it did successfully cross gaming concepts and proved the worth of post-game video editing and the joy it could bring, no doubt influencing future games such as the Driver series. I hope you enjoyed our flashback to Stunt Island on the PC. As always, if you enjoy this content, please subscribe, come back soon, and take care, Cave Dwellers.